Hey, what is up, everybody? It's me, Anthony. I'm back to talk about A Murder at the End of the World. This is the third episode that we're going to be talking about, and oh boy, we got a lot of stuff to talk about in this episode. So you know the deal. I'm going to give you guys my recap first, and I'm going to review the episode, then I'm going to give you guys my theories. And this episode has a lot of stuff in it and a lot of theories I have out, so this is going to be a fun one. So let's get into it. Episode 3, Chapter 3, Survivors. The episode starts off in the past with Bill and Darby starting their journey to find more information about the Silver Doe killer. Jumping back into the present, Darby gets ready to attend a social event hosted by Zeba, where all the guests will be in attendance. Once Darby enters the room, everyone gives her a weird look like she just let out a silent but deadly monster. But I think the real reason that they're giving her a stink eye, you see what I did there, because they know what had happened to Bill really has affected Darby, making her lash out and leave the room and cause a scene pretty much, which is understandable because her friend that she hasn't seen in years just died randomly in this unknown place. So kind of understand why she's acting the way she is. Darby tries to talk to Rohan, but is interrupted by Lu Mei, who is then interrupted by Lee. Lee asks her if she found any information about Bill's death, and Darby lies and says no. Lee looks surprised by her answer and says that she could have hacked the camera herself, and Darby responds by saying, "Why didn't you?" And I'm totally on Darby's side here. I've been kind of looking at Lee a little bit sus since the first 2 episodes of this series so far, and we're gonna get into theories as we go on, but I'm looking at Lee a little sus still. Darby then bumps into Tomas, the waiter who was there at Bill's room the day he died, and asks him how many cups of tea did he bring to Bill's room that night. Tomas doesn't answer the question and quickly walks away. Sean tells Darby that he should be careful with what she is doing and not to bite the hand that feeds you. And this puts Sean at the top of my suspicious list because she be acting weird in this episode. We haven't got there yet to the weirdest stuff that she's doing. But yes, I got my eyes on you, Sean, for more reasons than one. I mean, you're very suspicious, and I think you might be the killer, and also you're a very attractive lady. Zeba starts to sing a song in honor of Bill's death, and Darby starts to look at each of the guests as they turn into figures with white masks, the same figures she saw in the surveillance video that night of Bill's death. I totally love this scene because it's pretty much setting up Darby, pretty much activating her investigating powers and looking at each of the guests as suspects. They all could be this masked figure that we saw on the surveillance camera, and I really like that the setup and the way that it's filmed and shot. That was really cool. Darby leaves the others and follows Tomas into the kitchen and confronts him, asking about what he was doing at Bill's room. Tomas finally caves and tells Darby that he was delivering 3 cups of tea that night. Before Darby leaves the kitchen, she sees a poster with all the guest pictures and their room locations. With this information, Darby writes down on her arm in permanent marker this information and not on her phone. For some reason. I know she's still using an iPod, but I didn't know that her information taking down techniques are just as archaic. I mean, at least put it on some paper. Darby goes back to her room and starts gathering information about each guest in her hotel room, wanting to know their connections with Bill. Darby hears a door slam and sees someone walking outside and starts to follow them. As Darby is following the suspect, she almost falls off a cliff. This draws the attention of the suspect, revealing that it is the same person with a white mask that was at Bill's door that night. The suspect goes to investigate the sound and walks back to where Darby is hiding. Darby takes a look at his shoes, black snow boots with red shoelaces. That's going to be important information later on. The figure moves on and Darby follows behind them. The figure then goes up to a ledge and starts to signal in Morse code to someone or something in the distance. The message says, "One down, still a go." A blue light reacts to this in the distance and the figure disappears. Back in Darby's room, Lee comes to visit her with her son Zoomer, and Lee pleads to Darby that she can be trusted and that she understands why Darby still has some doubts. Darby asks her why she didn't hack the camera herself because she is too busy being a mother and a dutiful wife, which call bullshit on that. Call bullshit, I don't want to jump ahead of myself with theories and stuff, but We've got some things to talk about Lee. Convinced by her story, Darby shows Lee what she has found when she hacked the camera. Lee says that she knows what the mask is all about and says that it's an anti-AI detecting device that anyone in the hotel could have used. Lee then talks about her history with Bill and says that Bill found her after she went off the grid and that the two bonded and even hooked up during a drunken night. All this was going on while Lee and Andy were on again, off again in a relationship. The next day, Darby gets a gift from Andy. It's a snow jacket, and Darby meets up with the rest of the group in the middle of Iceland, and Andy tells the group that they are going to go on a hike and what they are about to see will be unforgettable. The group starts to make the hike and Darby runs up to talk to Rohan. Rohan starts to tell Darby about his relationship with Bill. Soon the group reaches the top of the summit and see a whole bunch of robots building tunnels and bridges. Andy says that this is all the work of Oliver, who says that this is called swarm robotics. Pretty on the nose there, but so some of the engineers that I know, not very creative with names. These robots are specifically built for climate extremes, so I guess they're finally talking about some climate change stuff. But I'm gonna give them a pass here because somebody did just die, so they don't really have time to talk about all the whole climate change and saving the world kind of stuff. Darby and the group settle into a shelter before heading back to the hotel, and Darby sees the same shoes that the figure with the white mask was wearing that night. Darby looks around and waits to see who the shoes belong to, and after some time, she finds out that the pair belongs to Rohan. Darby says the Morse code message to Rohan, and Rohan says that he would never hurt Bill and tells Darby that she should let this go. Back at the hotel, Darby plays with Zoomer and his VR set with what I can only describe as early 2000s graphics. And that's being nice. Darby tells Zoomer that he is lucky, but Zoomer disagrees and says that except when my parents are fighting. Darby asks what your parents are fighting about, and Zoomer says the future. Andy interrupts the two and tells Zoomer to go play as he talks to Darby alone and asks her about Disney. So we know that Andy Ronson is a Disney fan, a Disney adult, if you will. And as a person that grew up in the golden age, the best age of Disney, I can relate. I understand Disney's cool. I mean, I have a whole bunch of Pixar toys behind me. And also, if you want to go check out my latest review of Disney's 61st animated feature, Wish, go check it out over there. Self-promotion. Andy tells Darby that she needs to go home and that he doesn't like that Darby has been interrogating the rest of the guests. Darby and Andy have a back and forth discussion about the details of Bill's death, and Andy reveals that he knows that Darby hacked the footage and that he saw the footage himself and knows that there is someone with a mask running around the hotel. Andy claims that Bill died before the masked person arrived to his door, and Andy takes Darby's ring key and tells her that she needs to start packing. We cut back to the past and Bill and Darby talk to one of the Silver Doe Killer's survivors and ask her if she remembers anything about that night. She is reluctant at first, but eventually she gives them some clues about the killer. Back in the present, Darby leaves a message for Andy saying that she is keeping her room, and then Darby looks at her arm with all the guest numbers written on it and heads to Rohan's room. And this is when I thought of two things. The marker that she used to write down that information on her arm is the most powerful marker known to man because that thing is still fresh. And I know that has to be false because she was hiking, walking in the snow, going up those hills. I know she was sweating. And the other thing that I came to a conclusion of is this girl hasn't taken a shower in a couple of days. She's really committed to finding this killer. Once at Rohan's room, Darby talks to him through the door and says that I know that you love Bill. Before Darby can say more, Andy's head of security tells Darby that it's time for her to leave, and Darby goes into her room and starts to pack a bag so that she can escape. But right before she runs away, she gets a call from Rohan. Rohan says that he does indeed still love Bill, and Rohan asks Darby how she knew the whole time. Darby says, because I still love him too. Rohan confesses that he was the one with the white mask and went to Bill's room. Rohan says that Bill and him had a plan, but Bill uncovered a secret. When Rohan got to Bill's room, he thought that Bill had gotten wasted and he left. Rohan says that he thinks that Bill was drugged and that he thinks he knows what Bill had found. Before Rohan can tell Darby, he starts to choke and Darby runs to his room. Once there, Darby sees Rohan's flask spilled over, and Darby then hears a scream and runs to the common room and sees that Rohan is on the floor surrounded by the rest of the guests, dead. Andy then tells the head of security to get everyone underground, and the episode ends. So that is the end of episode 3 of A Murder at the End of the World. And oh boy, there was a lot of information dropped in this episode. And this one, by far, so far, I mean, there's only like 8 episodes, but this episode for me is the best one yet. I really like that we got a lot more information about characters in this episode, particularly Rohan. We got a lot more about him. His characters was very interesting. I mean, he's gone now, but also just the little bits and stuff hidden in the backgrounds that we got that we'll talk about later. It was really cool and really interesting to see in this episode because there's just so much stuff that makes you want to just go back and watch the episode multiple times, which I did. But I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was the best episode so far. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this episode. Did you like it so far? Did you like episode 1 or 2? Or did you like this one the best? Now we're getting into that time where we're going to talk about our theories for the show. And before I talk about the theories, I know a lot of you have been commenting down below and asking me, hey, Anthony, you know, why didn't you talk about this thing that happened in the show? Why didn't you talk about a note that was on screen and it was this tiny and it said this? And why didn't you talk about the sign that said Ray's Tavern or something like that? I'm just gonna tell you guys straight up, I like watching TV shows. I don't catch that stuff. You know, I need you guys to let me know about that stuff because I'm just here talking about what I see in front of me, what I can catch, and I'm going to give you my theories for that. So we're going to talk about stuff that said, like, you know, red sky in the background and people are flipping out about that online. I have no idea what the hell that means. I have no idea what that is. I don't know what connection it has to it. I'm not that kind of recapper, you know, theorist, whatever. You want that? Go look for somebody else. But I do have some theories of my own. And one of them is that I think Lu Mei might be a good guy. You know, she might be helping Rohan and Bill. Because Lee, when she was talking to Darby about the mask and she said that she knew what the mask was, she said that the anti-AI detecting mask was used a lot during the Hong Kong riots. And who do we know that's in this building that is from Hong Kong or at least China? I think she might be that third guest that was supposed to be meeting with Bill during that night. Because remember, Tomas said that he was bringing 3 cups of tea to Bill's room, and we know that Rohan was there, Bill was there. We don't know that third person, and I think it's Lu Mei, and they were planning something, that they discovered something that was going on. Also, another theory that's going around that people are talking about is Zoomer. You know, is he actually the kid of Andy Ronson, or is he the kid of Bill? Because Lee did say that she fooled around with Bill and then she was on again, off again with Andy Ronson, and then she had a kid and they got married. So I guess it kind of lines up that Zoomer could be Bill's kid, but I don't know what the significance of that would be to the story. Maybe it's like a motive for Andy Ronson to kill Bill, but like, why didn't he just kill him like sooner? You know, I don't know. That's just weird to me. I don't know how that, if that is true, how that plays into this episode, but it's an interesting theory. And speaking of Lee, when she was talking to Darby at night when she brought Zoomer with her, that whole scene, she's kind of sus. You know, she's talking about Rohan and she's suggesting that, oh, you know, Rohan, you know, knows Bill, and the way that her eyes are kind of moving is very suspicious. And you got to give it up to Brit Marling, because she is, not only did she create the show, she wrote some episodes, she directed some of the episodes, she's also starring as in a big role in the show, just like she did in the OA. And she's amazing. She's amazing. Just the acting that she does with her face, she's great. She's great, because she got me thinking that she is sus. Also, I guess we'll talk about the guy named David, who's like the rich guy. You know, there's a scene in here where he's hitting on Darby, I guess, and he's calling her a little girl, and she's a smart little girl. It was just really disgusting. So that was there. It's not really a theory. It's just, he's a dick. And the last theory that I have is that Sean and Andy are having an affair, because there's just some scenes in here in this episode where Sean and Andy are like whispering on the side together and nobody else is there except for Darby, like catches them talking. Or at the end of the episode where everybody is around Rohan, there's only two people that are not there, and that is Andy and Sean. And they come running from the same direction. So like almost as if they were together, you know, doing something, doing the deed or something like that. I don't know. That's a theory that I have. But like I mentioned before in my recap, I'm looking at Sean sus and looking at her for other reasons too. But you know. But of course, guys, let me know what your theories are in the comments down below. Let me know what I missed, what you saw in the episode. I know there might be something to do with that scene with Rohan's flask. There's some other things there that were on the table. Hey, if you figured what that is, or you have some theories about other stuff happening in that sequence, let me know in the comments down below. But as always, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. We have officially hit 2,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. I know a lot of you have come here for the reviews and recaps of A Murder at the End of the World, but I also do movie reviews. So if you see movie reviews on this channel and other stuff, don't be alarmed that I'm not doing more recaps of this show, because I am, but my channel is mainly for reviews. So don't unsubscribe yet. Don't unsubscribe yet. But thank you so much for all the new people and the old people supporting this channel. It means a lot. And as always, guys, keep watching.